Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. Brett Pritchard and Randy Lee here with you till 6 o'clock. Sports Call brought to you by Lee Marketing Group. Remember, Lee Marketing Group, LNG, for all your marketing needs out there. Check them out on the well and on the web. I don't know what the well is, but on the web. But check out Lee Marketing Group for all your marketing needs, video production, and more. LNG can hook you up there. But Randy, right here and talking about NFL fights and what we saw this past Sunday between Odell Beckham Jr. and Josh Norman, and it kind of got carried away. So we decided we're going to pull up some fights. You showed me the one. I don't remember that Andre Rison and Deion Sanders one. I don't know what I must have totally just blacked out during that one, but that was a pretty good one itself. But you could do my point is, and I'm sure they went at it more than just that one time.
Oh, no, that's where it finally came to a head. This was quarters in. Yeah, I remember watching the game, and Deion finally had just left crossed him. He'd had enough. Both of them been fighting stalk blocking the whole game.
Yeah,
Deion ain't made a tackle that year anyway. The only hit he made was on Rison right there.
Yeah, well, it was kind of funny because Deion wasn't the biggest fan of contact, so he tried to shy away as much as he could, but not right there. But the one I pulled up was Cortland Finnegan and Andre Johnson, and a lot of people remember that one. I mean, that turned out to be a full-out brawl until somebody stepped in. But, look, we know it gets heated. You got two premier players, Josh Norman being heralded as maybe one of the best cornerbacks in the game right now. Obviously, Odell Beckham Jr., one of the best receivers. And, you knew they were going to line up against one another. And a lot of emotions flowing along with other things. And a lot of those guys that line up out there at cornerback are trash talkers, man. I mean, a lot of those receivers, man, they talk trash too. And so sometimes it just gets to the point where you can't take it anymore. So you just have to kind of let your emotions go.
888-9 Tiger 9 334-887-3401. Big victory for Auburn today, 83-78 is there in Hawaii. They take down New Mexico. Canny, of course, continues his hot streak, and he is just a scorer out there, Brett. 27 points, 7 assists, back-to-back three-pointers along the way. And I'm telling you, Canny is what we had last year. You felt like you were in the game somewhat as a shooter's game, but I wanted to go back to that Xavier game, unfortunately, that I saw Saturday. And it really does tell you the difference between a team that's undefeated and one of the top 10 teams in the country and very deserving. Having to go to their place, by the way, is a big part of this. But Auburn, when you see us, we got 2 or 3 guys I think could play for just about everybody. But once Bruce Pearl gets another 2 or 3 to go with them, Brett, you can see in the future what's coming. Once a Wiley's in here, once Horace Spencer actually
you think New Williams and Bryce Brown ever get it going?
Purifoy, once he gets in,
is he going to get in?
Well, that's what we need. Because right now when I watched, and I'd like to hear your thoughts, when I watch him play Xavier, who's a top-notch team, really got 2 players, I think, that are premier players. Yep. Simeon Bowers came off the bench today. He had 12 points.
Yep.
But when he's in there, Brett, he's physical. You can find the ball to him. He can get an offensive rebound and get putbacks, miss some free throws, but nonetheless, you can tell it. And Canny he's a scorer. He is an all-SEC player this year, no question. He's over 20 points a game leading the conference right now. But after that, there's some decent, good players. You can see in the future that Horace Spencer may have some offensive presence. Right now, he needs to put on a little weight, and he's a long, lengthy guy that can get some rebounds. But I think Auburn's still at least a year or 2 away from where we're going to see them. But I think they're going to get there where Bruce Pearl had Tennessee a few years back.
Yeah, Canny shot the ball 21 times, 9 of 21, 5 of 14 from behind the arc. So led Auburn with 27 points. T.J. Dunan's with 20 points. Horace Spencer and T.J. Lang both chipped in 6, and as you said, Simeon Bowers off the bench at 12. So, but Bryce Brown only 3, New Williams none. So you would like to see some of those guys that were brought in being more contributing. Be more contributors to the points total. And Bruce Pearl said it. I believe it was after the UAB game. Randy, you and I were on the way back from a high school football game, listening to that game, actually watching. And he said, man, he was excited about Bryce Brown and New Williams and what they were going to bring. He just talked a lot about them. And, of course, Kareem Canty. Hopefully those guys get it going by the interconference play. What's your initial thoughts after 8 ball games, this Auburn team? What do you think they do in conference play?
Be lucky to get 500. be lucky to be a 500 team in conference because mainly the away games, this Auburn team's going to struggle with away. They're just 2 or 3 players away, though, and that's saying a lot for a program I think has been a lot further away than that.
Oh, no doubt.
And if Purifoy comes back, he could be one of those guys. But Brett Dunan's had a good game today. He seems
he's up and down.
He's up and down. He's in games. Tyler Harris was in foul trouble today. He had
4
2
points.
quick fouls within about a minute or two. He was in the same issue that he had against Xavier. He's playing. He's kind of the old guy out there. He's the inside presence. He's kind of the enforcer for this basketball team. I think they're 2 or 3 players away, and I think they'll get there, and I think they'll sneak up and beat a few people that they shouldn't, Brett. But if they can get anywhere near 500, that's a massive difference in year 2 in Bruce Pearl's.
Is it good enough to make the tournament?
Which tournament?
Well, I mean,
I think this is an NIT team.
Yeah.
To me, when I was talking, I think you and I talked after the game Saturday, to me it looked like a 16 seed against a 1 against Xavier. Now, that's at Xavier's place, and I think Xavier has a chance to end up being a 1, 2, or 3 seed in the tournament. Now, what does that mean, Auburn? Auburn, if they could sneak in, they'd be but they're still a while away. But we're moving in the right direction, buddy. I am all on the Bruce Pearl bus right now. I think he's got everything going in the right direction.
We couldn't ask for anything better.
Can we get better as the season goes on? Maybe, but I didn't see it Saturday. Let's put it that way.
Well, again, the team that we beat last year, which, we beat them in Auburn, which was we had to play phenomenal, and Xavier kind of blew some opportunities in there, but it was probably one of the biggest wins Auburn had all year last year was against that Xavier team in Auburn Arena, but didn't get it done. It was very lopsided in the play, and as you said, you could tell the difference between – that's Xavier. Xavier is has been historically a tough place to go win a basketball game. And there, every time you hear the word Xavier, they're always in the top as far as discussion of being in the tournament and making a decent run down the line. But again, we'll continue to talk about Auburn basketball.
Brian Matthews up next, and you'll be able to catch up with him. And just a quick note out there: Sports Blitz live tonight, 7 to 9. Make sure to tune in. Charter Channel 80. Statewide or Charter Channel 3 here in the Lake Martin region.
Absolutely. Let's go to another break. Again, LMG, one of our big sponsors here on Sportscall. From logo design and branding to ad placement, LMG can handle it all for ease of time. Cutting-edge, results-driven marketing campaigns. Think Lee Marketing Group, your comprehensive marketing solution. Check them out on the web at leemarketing.net. Stay tuned. Brian Matthews up next. You're listening to Sportscall. Hey, Chase, can you hear me? Chase, can you hear me? Hey, Chase, can you hear me? See if he can call back to me. Chase. Who we going to get as a defensive coordinator, man? Any clue? I did his head. Let's go and hire that one. Gave up 40 in the second half. Let's go get him. He ain't no good. Hey, well, ask him if he can talk to me. I can't hear anything. Tell him I'm trying to talk to him. Hello. Hello. 1 2 1 2. Hey, 1 2. Test 1 2. Hey, Chase, can you hear me? Better just hang tight real quick, because if I can't get him, we're going to have to just keep on rolling. I'm talking about if I can't get him to come through on the speaker. Oh, man. Tom Allen's that defense coordinator at South Florida. Lord. How does Shamsuddin have a third shoulder separation? Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. Brett Pritchard and Randy Lee here with you till 6 o'clock. We'd love to hear from you, but we'll take your phone calls on the other side of this segment. This time, we want to welcome in our good friend Brian Matthews every Tuesday at 4:30. Brian joins us right here on Sports Call. Brian, you with us?
I'm right here. How you guys doing?
Doing great, Brian. And again, always glad to have you on the program. And everybody can follow you out there in Twitter world at BMattAU, and they can keep up with you as you kept everybody posted on Auburn's recent victory in basketball this afternoon as they defeated New Mexico 83-78. We'll play the winner of that BYU Harvard game on Wednesday. So talk about that first of all. That's what we opened up the program talking about, Brian, is Kareem Canty pours in 27 points, has 7 assists. Dunans has 20, and then Bowers adds in 12 off the bench, but 12 rebounds there as Auburn gets a big win over New Mexico.
And it is a big win for Auburn. New Mexico is perennially, can you pronounce that well, a top team in the Mountain West Conference, which is a really good basketball conference. And this will help Auburn down the line because I think New Mexico is going to have a pretty good season. You saw they've got some really good players, including Elijah Brown, who went for, I think, 33 points. I thought Canty was terrific down the stretch, and that play with Dunnan stealing the ball and getting the Bowers for the dunk, and then of course Canty said right before that with the step back three with I think it was Elijah all over him. That was just a money shot there. That's the type of player Canty is. He's a clutch player, a guy who's not afraid to take that shot.
Not afraid to take that shot. 15 of his 27 coming from outside the three-point arc, and that added value of being able to shoot that three and knock it down really makes him a weapon. Talk about Simeon Bowers though, coming off, and a guy that Bruce Pearl's really looking forward to having back on this team, and hasn't had the best start to the season, but pours in 12 points and 12 rebounds for Auburn, and a guy that Auburn's going to really depend on, especially when they get in conference play.
Yeah, and I think Pearl liked bringing him off the bench. It gave, the freshman Horace Spencer the start. Horace didn't have a great game, but I thought Bowers had a lot of energy come off the bench. Still a little out of control at times, but anytime you can get a double-double, and I think that's his fourth straight double-double from one of your big men, that's a big plus for Auburn, and he had some really key rebounds down the stretch there, too, and, of course, had that monster dunk off that steal from Dunn.
Being able to again get a win against New Mexico, and they'll take on again the winner of that game between BYU and Harvard on Wednesday. Your thoughts on that matchup there? Both of those teams, you know much about either one of them?
No, I'm trying to watch the game a little bit while I'm writing up my story now. But Harvard is sort of what you expect: a great passing team, smart. Going to be tough to defend with the type of offense they run, and I think BYU will probably make a run here, and they're certainly going to be the favorite team. But Harvard's got off to a really good start. So, I think both the teams at Auburn is going to have a chance to win and then have the chance to advance to the finals. And they'll probably play Oklahoma. Oklahoma's the best team in this tournament. And I know Pearl and those Auburn players will love a shot at the number, I think, 3 team in the country.
Yeah, and a great opportunity for them, but nothing wrong with being out in Honolulu, Hawaii during the Christmas holidays there, Brian. A little bit jealous over here that they're able to partake, but Auburn playing good basketball right now. I want to shift over to football now, and this time last week, you and Andy talked about it on this program. Auburn really was just coming off a pretty good week of news and recruiting. Got a lot of early signees there from the JUCO ranks, and able to hold on to some guys that they were worried about. So it was big time news, and Auburn moved up the recruiting rankings, and it seemed like everything was going well. We are a little bit more than a week away from the bowl game next Wednesday up in Birmingham against Memphis. Going to be a tough test for one of the best quarterbacks in the country, leading the Memphis Tigers. Just your thoughts and what you've heard so far and how practice has been going for Auburn.
Well, practice ended this weekend, and they're off for Christmas break, and they'll meet up, I think, on the 26th and get back into practice mode leading up to the game. It sounds like things went pretty well, but it's really hard to say. They're closed off. We only talked to Gus one time during practices, and that was after the first practice. So I think from what I've been told or what I've been able to find out, I think practice went well. I don't think there are any major injuries that I know of. I think Sean White was able to get in there and compete and work at that quarterback position. And, he hasn't named a starter. He probably won't name a starter until close to kickoff. But if Sean White remains healthy, I think it'll probably be him.
Yeah, a lot of people talking about that. Yeah, and Auburn knocking off this weekend. Days kind of running together, knocking off this weekend for the Christmas holidays, and we'll gather back up to get ready for that game next Wednesday. Defensive coordinator, Brian, is still the hot topic on this program, on the boards, everywhere. And if you watch that South Florida game against Western Kentucky, I know a lot of people were very interested, Auburn fans, and maybe Tom Allen, so what could happen. But South Florida, man, that was kind of scary. They gave up a ton of points, especially in the second half.
They did, and they're playing a really good offensive team. Western Kentucky, if you look at the points they scored this year, it's pretty amazing. And I sort of expected to hear something on Tom Allen today. We have not yet, so we're still waiting. But I still think he's the guy that is most likely to be Auburn's defensive coordinator. If you look back at South Florida season overall, that defense was much improved in his very first year there. So he's basically coaching somebody else's recruits, and he helped turn that thing around for them and help get them to a bowl game.
I know you and Andy's talked about this over the last couple of weeks with Gus, and Gus trying to get this offense turned back around. Got some guys that are coming in, and Sean White coming back, possibly Jeremy Johnson that could be in the mix. But having that right quarterback to run this offense, we've heard so many times while we talked about games after the results that just a few plays here and there, and the season could have been a lot different. Even though the offense sputtered, Auburn was in most every single game outside of that LSU game. So the importance of getting a quarterback in there this spring, Brian, and getting him some work, whoever that guy is, and sticking with him, I think is the key to this offense.
I do too. I really believe that having a quality quarterback, one who's consistent and can make plays, could be a big difference in this team. And we've seen when Gus has had a good quarterback like Cam Newton or Nick Marshall, that offense put up huge numbers, and he can lead that team to a SEC and even national championships. So that's key. I think John Franklin's going to have a great chance to win that job in the spring. He is signed with Auburn. He'll be ready to go enroll in start classes January 13th, along with one other JUCO signee and at least 7 other high school early graduates. That's 9 newcomers to the team. I think a lot of those guys are going to have key roles.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people watching Franklin to see if he'll emerge as the next quarterback for Auburn. Talk about the numbers, Brian, where we sit now in this dead period, and as we get ready for to hit the home stretch in January and signing day in February. Talk about the numbers for Auburn right now and how many more spots they have available.
I have to look it up real quick. I think they're up to 17 or 18 total commitments, and it's 18 now, and I think they're going to go right around 25. So there's only a handful of spots left. We're talking 7 or 8. There could be some guys that drop off too. That always happens as you get close to signing day, especially if you have a new coordinator coming in. He may like somebody or not like somebody more than others. But just going down the stretch, Auburn probably needs at least one more pass rusher along that defensive line or an outside linebacker. They definitely need another linebacker. They're losing 3 seniors here. They got to find a couple of new starters. I think Trey Williams will be one of the starters, but they got to find another guy in there. And I think a true freshman can come in and compete for at least playing time, maybe even starting jobs. So that's a position to watch down the stretch. They're going to need probably another cornerback or DB out of this class. They definitely need a offensive tackle, a freshman that can come in and, be ready to play fairly early. Somebody who's got some high upside there at left tackle. And would not be surprised to see them maybe take another wide receiver. They've already got a really good receiver class. Kyle Davis is enrolling early. That's going to be a big plus. I see him as a guy that can step in and play right away.
Yeah, Kyle Davis looked at by a lot of places as maybe the top receiver in the country. I mean, 6'2", 224 pounds out of Georgia was a big get for Auburn to land him, and continuing to get big time players in this class. Auburn will continue to move up the rankings, I'm sure, filling those last few spots. Before I let you go, Brian, real quick, let's talk about this game next Wednesday. Auburn in Birmingham. I know it's not the most glamorous bowl game. A lot of people disappointed, but you do get a bowl game. You're getting these practices trying to get better for next year, but you're playing a heck of an opponent, a team that really took Ole Miss to the woodshed there about midway through the season. One of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback coming out in this class. A lot of people say he's the number one quarterback off the board in the NFL draft this year. Talk about this game and how you think it sets up.
I think it's a very tough matchup for Auburn. Paxton Lynch is a special player, guy that's going to be making a lot of money here in the next several months or so. And, Memphis is a team you feel like they're going to feel like, even though their record's better and, they're going to feel like the underdog against Auburn because Auburn's a big SEC program, and they're going to have a lot of motivation to beat Auburn, and they're going to come with a lot of confidence because they've already beaten a good SEC team in Ole Miss. So this is a tough matchup. I think Auburn really has to come out motivated and really has to play well to beat Memphis. If they do that, I think they can win. And, if they really play up to their potential, they could potentially win big. But in bowl games, a lot of it is how much you want it. And usually a team like Memphis will come in with that emotional edge. So this is going to be a game where Auburn's going to have to play really well to win.
Is that a concern, Brian? And I know Gus wouldn't say anything about it or any coaching staff. Is that a concern with Memphis coming in really looking at this as an opportunity to knock off another SEC team, and Auburn maybe not being as up for this game as they would some other ball game? Is that something that you're hearing might be of a real concern?
I think so. I think Gus was trying to plan it up and talk to the team about how important it is to finish with a winning record and some of these seniors out as winners and build some momentum going into next year. So he's trying to push every button. We'll see how it goes here in 8 more days.
Well, Brian, always a pleasure to have you on our program, 4:30 every Tuesday. Everybody can catch Brian Matthews here. You can catch him on Twitter at @BMattAU. What else is going on in your guys' world, Brian?
Not too much. It's a little bit of a slowdown period now. They got all the signees pretty much ready to go, and we just got the basketball games here for the next couple of days, and then take up a little time for Christmas, and we'll hit ball practice, and before we know it, it'll be time for Birmingham ball.
It'll be here before we know it. Well, Brian, as always, thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you and your family, and we look forward to catching up with you next Tuesday.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you so much. That's Brian Matthews there. Catch him right here on Sports Call every Tuesday afternoon at 4:30. We're going to get another break here. When we come back, Randy will join me. We'll continue to take your calls. Stay tuned. More Sports Call presented by LMG right after this.
Jingle bell rock. Jingle bells swing and
The shrimp basket has fish, shrimp, and chicken.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call here. As be the last time Randy and I will be on the air before Christmas, so I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas out there. And hey, be wary of the or leery, not weary, but be leery of the weather tonight and tomorrow. So that's supposed to be pretty rough out there. Is it Christmas? Is it spring? Is it? It's 80. It's going to be 80 degrees on Christmas Day. I mean, that's what they're forecasting. 80 degrees on Christmas Day. So I know we've had some warm ones before, but maybe this one might be a record breaker.
888-9-Tiger-9-334-887-3401. I want to thank Brian Matthews, Jason Caldwell. All year long, they've been able to catch up with us on Tuesday and Thursday, so we can't thank them enough for adding what they do out there, Brett. And your thought on the defensive coordinator hire. I know y'all just talked about it, and where does Auburn go?
Brian Matthews seems to think that Tom Allen's the guy. So he said he's really shocked that he hadn't heard anything. I guess they're trying to get over the shock of giving up 40-something to Western Kentucky. Look, and I know that's one game, and, South Florida's defense much improved this year, and he came in and worked with somebody else's recruits, and I get all that. And actually, the defense played pretty good in the first half. I thought South Florida was in control. It was 14-0. I cut it off, and I got a text from my dad, and I mean, good Lord, talking about opening the floodgates. I mean, I couldn't believe how many points they'd given up in the second half. So let me go back real quick. I mean, that defense coordinator, we'll take your calls, 1-888-9-Tiger-9-334-887-3401. My immediate concern is the 6'7", 245-pound quarterback named Paxton Lynch at Memphis, who we'll see next Wednesday. Mm-hmm. I mean, this guy, if you've seen his stats, he's completing nearly 70% of his passes. You watched that Ole Miss game earlier in the season. He torched a pretty good defense for Ole Miss. He's averaging about 9.5 yards a pass. He's got a 166 QB rating. He's thrown for 3,670 yards. And if you've seen our secondary, if you remember this past year, it wasn't the best in the world. Made some improvements. Thought Carlton Davis made some improvements, but this is the number one quarterback coming off the board. 28 TDs, 3 interceptions. He looks like a pro-style quarterback. Randy can move for his size.
Yeah, he does. Auburn, though, finished 91st against the rush this year. So
yeah.
That's where Auburn was susceptible, especially in big football games where you saw Leonard Fournette and Derrick Henry really put on shows against Auburn this year. Against the pass, I thought – some points in time of the year that we were average, and average is better than terrible because 91st is terrible. So average is okay, and we gave up a lot of yards between the 20s, but always seemed to hunker down and make some plays. A couple of key interceptions in that Texas A&M game really gets us the one win that we had this year that we hang our hat on. Other than that, I can't think of anything that was really great about the season, Brett. So. The biggest concern that I got, and I've already mentioned it to you, and we can talk about it as we move into the second hour of the program, is just looking down that depth chart for next year. I know that it's easy to do, but when you look down the depth chart and you see what you're potentially losing, and trying to figure out who this defense coordinator is coming in, and now there's some talent. If you want to continue to go back to recruiting rankings, there's plenty of talent there, but we just didn't see it on the field this year, and the key contributors that we did have were losing.
Just a lot of pressure on Gus Malzahn to make the right decision here. Don't know what that right decision is. You won't know until the season gets started. And I don't know if in 1 year, I don't care who it is. Obviously, Will Muschamp proved in 1 year you can't do much. And, how much pressure is Gus Malzahn under, Randy, to get this thing turned around? I'll tell you what can save him, in my opinion, is getting that offense turned around, being able to go back and score, being able to go back and score points. Now, the defense – it probably ain't going to fix itself overnight. And I don't care who the defense coordinator is. If it's Tom Allen, if it's whoever it is, Todd Grantham, wherever. If it's Lance Thompson staying, I don't care. But the bottom line is Gus Malzahn, for the first time in his history in college, struggled putting points on the board. And really, I mean, no matter where he's been, this is the first time he struggled doing it. So he's got to find their identity again. You bring that up a lot. You got to find your identity and stick with it. Where it's running the football, read option, if you want to use a Chris Todd type quarterback to throw the ball around the field, whatever it might be, Auburn's got to find their identity and stick with it and run and go with it and quit hopping around and trying to change everything.
I just feel like we can run the football. I feel like we could all year long. And does it mean changing out a quarterback? Does it mean maybe giving a pace back there? We may not see it here in the bowl game, but a Jason Smith type. Kerryon Johnson's also played in the Wildcat formation inside the 20, inside the 10. And Had some dynamic plays. That's a player I want to see more of. I don't care how we see it. I just want to see more Kerryon Johnson.
He's such a great player.
I think he has the potential of being a great player, but he gets lost the same as many of our players that we got a lot of interest in out there. I think the two-headed monster and Javon Robinson,
maybe what I'm saying,
and Peyton Barber. I think we got plenty of good between the tackles runs there. But to me, Kerryon Johnson's an all SEC type player that we would have back there in the backfield. He may end up at a slot playing a little bit more there, but Brett, I still think he's as good as we've got an option on back there in the backfield. Do you agree, or are you kind of sold on Javon Robinson?
No, I agree. I think there's a lot of options back there running back. And the problem is you and I ended up scratching our head at the games why a guy would go off in the first half and you wouldn't see him in the second half. I mean, it's almost like you try to outsmart yourself offensively and go away from what's working, and you're trying to maybe on a coaching perspective be one step ahead of the other guy, knowing he's going to make adjustments, so you try to switch. But I'm old school. Change it when they stop it, and I think sometimes we stopped ourselves just as much as anybody. But up against the top of the hour break, hour number 1 coming to a close. Again, the Fox Sports Report's coming up next. When we come back in the second hour, we'll continue to take your calls. 1-888-9-TIGER-9 334-887-3401. Stay tuned. More Sports Call presented by Home Place Mortgage coming your way right after this.
East Alabama's sports talk leader.
Swing and drive. Right.
Sportscall.
Oh, what a dunk.
Call in now at 887-3401 or 1-888-9-TIGER-9 toll free.
Struck him out.
And now, coming to you live from the loveliest village on the plains, Sportscall.
Welcome back, everyone, to hour number 2 of the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. Brett Pritchard and Randy Lee here with you till 6 o'clock, taking your calls, 1-888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401 to be part of the program. Remember, Home Place Mortgage, one of our lead sponsors here on Sports Call. Home Place Mortgage of Auburn and Lake Martin, the region's best mortgage professionals and rates. For all new home or refinancing mortgage services, come to the right place. Home Place Mortgage of Auburn and Lake Martin. Be sure to visit them at homeplacemtg.com. Randy had a great first hour. I want to continue to take people's calls. Had Brian Matthews on at 4:30 to talk about the potential defensive coordinator hire. Auburn preparing for Memphis in the Birmingham Bowl next Wednesday. And then also the big basketball win for Auburn this afternoon rather against New Mexico. And, Brian talked about that. He said, New Mexico, historically a very good basketball program, plays in a tough conference. For Auburn to go out there to Hawaii and win that game in the tournament, it's a big plus.
Yeah, definitely was a great win today, and need to continue to build some confidence with this team. I think that they've got Kareem Canny, of course, one of the top players in the conference. I don't think anybody would argue that, but when you continue to see down the rest of the list of players, a lot of guys that don't have a lot of minutes, and continue to get them out on the court. Brett, it was a huge weekend for the state of Alabama this past weekend.
Yeah,
it's normally Auburn or Alabama that we're talking about. Troy maybe third after that, but it's Jacksonville State right now, and Jacksonville State and what they did this past week. Picking up a 62-10 victory could have easily been as bad as they wanted it to be.
Sure.
Had 41 there at the half. I think they could have gotten into the 80s or the 90s. This is Eli Jenkins-led offensive unit that is going to need all that they can get, taking on a team that's won 4 consecutive titles.
Yeah, looking for number 5, and that's North Dakota State, who they'll take on, who's the number 3 seed in the bracket there. But they fight their way out and destroy Richmond 33-7. And again, this is championship number 5 in a row that North Dakota State's going for, Randy. So who was that North Dakota State beat a few years ago? Was it Kansas State? It was Kansas State. They beat an opener. And they've been a top program in FCS for quite a while. So the game will be in Frisco, Texas on January the 9th, set for 11 a.m. Central Time, Randy. So 11 a.m. is when Jacksonville State – hey, look, this is a team that took Auburn to overtime. They were number 1 in the nation in FCS and been pretty much number 1 the whole season. And like you said, Jenkins is a phenomenal player at quarterback.
Tremaine Pope.
You and I have talked about it, and when I watched them in their earlier round against, was it Charleston Southern, who they played in the first round, or actually the second round for them because they had the bye in the first. But Chattanooga is who they played, yeah. But Charleston Southern, in that game, Tremaine Pope looked like he was out to practice early, breaking. I know the offensive line had a lot to do with it, but watching the game were several people, and they're like, my goodness. I said, I remember him well, played in the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game, really a great athlete from Anniston High School, and just a tremendous player and a big pickup. But you look at that defensive front for for Jacksonville State, got 2 former Auburn Tigers on that defensive front. Sigler is on there, and also Landrum. And Landrum has really been playing good. And those are 2 guys that transferred from Auburn and have gone on to Jacksonville State and made really, really good players up there.
When you and I go out and we see some of these players like a Jenkins, like a Pope, that get passed over by our bigger schools in the state, and they can't take everybody, so it's to be understood. But I think Pope's got he's fast. Well, not only that, he's got the body frame that it takes to play in pros, and I think he's a pro back. They had 6 rushing touchdowns, and Pope, I don't know what he finished with, but he had well over 200 yards rushing, and he broke the all-time rushing mark for Jacksonville State, and this is a team though that I think can do both things. They can run the football if they need to play power football, which you probably will here in this championship game. They're able to do that. If they need a quarterback that needs to play as well as anybody out there and be a playmaker, they got that clearly. And both those guys from here in the state of Alabama, Jenkins played at Parker High School, Tremaine Pope, as you mentioned, at Anniston. And the reason I was upset as bad as I was about UAB losing their program a few years back, you take away some of these programs that are not looked at as Auburn or Alabama, and you lose opportunities for kids here in this state. And you see a program like Jacksonville State who's, I don't know. We'd have to pull it up. I'd guess 80% of their players are from the state of Alabama. They're two leading players right there that we just talked about from good high schools here in the state of Alabama. And they get an opportunity, and they're going to have a chance to play in the pros. You asked about Jenkins. You said, could Jenkins transfer to a school like Auburn or anywhere else? I mean, yeah, of course. I think he could play at any of them, but he's going to be a redshirt senior next year. Is that right?
Yeah.
And he's coming back for after winning a national championship at Jacksonville State.
Hopefully winning.
Yeah. Good question. I don't know. That would be because I think he's got an opportunity to play in the pros watching him play.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, may go on and go. I mean, it's just it'd be interesting to see what he decides to do. Had a good friend of ours, won't call a name, that follows Jacksonville State very closely too, and went to school there. So he's a big Gamecock fan, and he's also a big Auburn fan. He was like, my goodness, if we had Jenkins here at Auburn this year, well, the way he's been playing, what a difference he might have made. And that's the truth, Randy. I mean, obviously we've talked about it, and I know our defense didn't play all that great all year, but it got better scoring defense-wise, maybe not yardage-wise, but offensively. Randy, outside of LSU, I mean, Auburn's in every game, had a chance to if they'd have had some type of weapon, at the quarterback position to get us going in that offense, you could have had a different outcome. Not saying the team as a whole would have been much better, but, I mean, Auburn's already proven in the past it doesn't take much. You get one player in that quarterback position, it can be the difference.
Yeah, John Gross, high school coach only a few years back at Oxford High School. Has been at Spain Park and he's kind of bounced around a little bit, and he's a premier. We had him, I think, in that same Alabama-Mississippi game that Pope was playing in. He was the head coach of that Alabama team that year. And but this is a team that's seen Bill Clark as their head man before Gross takes over.
They've had some good coaches.
Gross was the offensive coordinator, so I think a lot of the credit needs to go towards Bill Clark also, because he's put together a tremendous team that's kind of got an edge about them, and they've been close. This is not their first year. It's about their third year that I think they've been in that not all the way, clearly hadn't made it to a national title game up until this year, but they've been right there knocking on the door for a while.
They have been a top program in FCS, and give a lot of credit to John Gross. But like you said, Bill Clark, just a phenomenal coach everywhere he's ever been. Prattville High School did a lot for Prattville and building that program back, and turning the reins over to Jamie Dubose down there after he left, and then he goes on to South Alabama to be down there with Joey Jones, and then Jacksonville State, and then now UAB, and got UAB 2 years last year to an opportunity to go to a bowl game. Did away with the program, so he's sticking with them, going to build back. But he's really done a lot for a lot of programs around the state, high school and college.
888-9 Tiger 9 334-887-3401. Again, love to hear from you out there, as we took a phone call there in the first hour from Brian Matthews, and we appreciate that. Make sure to tune in to Sports Blitz tonight, Sports Blitz Live on Charter Channel 80 statewide and Charter Channel 3 here in the Lake Martin region.
All these bowl games going on, and one going on right now, and we're going to talk about the bowl schedule again, because I think it's something that is going to be revisited. Randy, coming down the stretch right now, you got a 4-team playoff, and I think you got 4 really good teams in there, but you really have one play keeping Ohio State out of the possibility. And Ohio State crept in there last year as the number 4 seed, and everybody felt like maybe they shouldn't have got in over TCU and end up winning the thing. I mean, that's the crazy thing about playoffs. Some of these teams right there on the cusp, you get in there and you can make some noise. I just think as you see a game here right now with Akron playing against Utah State in the middle of the day, people just getting off work. I mean, nobody even really knows the game's on, and I don't think it draws that much attention, but you expand, and I know Luke could argue with me, and you may do the same when come back. We'll talk about it. you expand it out and have a little bit more emphasis on some of these playoff games, man, it would be really, really fun and interesting in my opinion. That's just my thoughts on that. But we're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll continue to take your calls and talk more about these bowl games as we approach the Birmingham Bowl for Auburn next Wednesday. Stay tuned. More Sports Call presented by LMG right after this. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. Little Charlie Brown Christmas there. Randy, that's my favorite one of all time. Out of all the Christmas movies, man, that's the best one. So that definitely means it's Christmas time, even though you walk outside and it's 80 degrees. So would love to hear from you. 1-888-9 Tiger 9-334-887-3401 to be part of the program. As we left off in that last break,
how many teams you want in the playoffs?
Well, maybe a little bit more than 4, maybe 8. I mean, do you give a rip about the Boca Raton Bowl?
Well, but that
do you
doesn't
give
change.
a rip about the Potato Bowl that's going on right now, Akron and Utah State, that kicked off at 2:30 in the afternoon on a work day? I don't care.
Well,
I had to come in and go, oh, yeah, the bowl game's on.
But changing over how many are in the playoff doesn't change the fact that –
Well, what I'm saying is the restructuring of some of this stuff. You'll have more games coming down the stretch that mean something other than you got, all right, well, let's just go on down the list and go down to the bottom here, and let's talk about some of these bowls that have some pretty good football teams in them that aren't in the playoffs, maybe like a Stanford and an Iowa. Iowa literally – that game in Michigan State came down to the last play. You're talking about a play could have gone either way. It was a 4th down. Either Iowa scores or holds Michigan State out, or Michigan State scores, and the winner of that game goes on to play. And so it's just so much all or nothing right there. And I know that's the way the playoffs can go too. And look, you can argue back and forth so many different ways on this thing. But Oklahoma and Clemson make it in, Alabama and Michigan State rightfully make it in to the football game. But I just think maybe in Ohio State, they had a good chance. I know they had that one field goal that went against them. And I know they didn't play a very strong schedule, but, there's just so much. It even proves now with even 4 teams that, the BCS had it narrowed down to 2. And we knew there were some very good teams that got left out. I don't care about the Potato Bowl. I really don't.
I'm not going to care about the Potato Bowl if they go from 4 to 8 to 16, though, Brett.
It changes the structure of this whole deal, though. I think some of these bowls go away. And I
don't believe so. Let's take the bowl in Montgomery.
I think some of them will go away.
The Camellia Bowl in Montgomery, or the Birmingham Bowl, which Auburn will be playing in at, by the way, 11 o'clock on a Wednesday in the middle of the work week. I still think that those communities want the bowls there.
Well, that's fine.
And they want to be able to sell those tickets, but nonetheless, they want tourism to the community. Everything you ever hear about Crampton Bowl and getting that camera and ESPN and all the coverage in the community and to see what revolves around it, I think that they still want that, Brett. And so I don't think they're going to go away. I think that as long as there's a community out there willing to pay the money to bring them, and there's TV needed and TV coverage out there that ESPN's knee-deep with all of this, I don't think you'll see it go anywhere. I really don't.
Maybe not. But I know most of these games don't make any money. And I know some of the communities do. But I know a lot of people, and it's not a cut on Montgomery, but the Camellia Bowl, it was a good football game. Appalachian State won 31-29. It brought Ohio in. It brought Appalachian State in. It's the second year. There's a lot of hype around it in the area and all. And I know a lot depends on who you bring in as far as your teams and all that kind of stuff is concerned. But it just, to me, and I'm all about college football, and I like watching. I'll even sit down if this is on right here. But I do think that we're moving toward. And look, don't be surprised if it doesn't change down the line. You just know it's coming.
Let's go to the phone line. Shadow, you're on Sports Call.
I appreciate it. When's the last time you saw Auburn play a basketball game like that?
It's been a while. Auburn, that was a big win against New Mexico today. I said it to start the show. Out there in the tournament in Honolulu against a team that's usually got a good reputation of playing good basketball. It's already got 7 wins on this early part of the season. That was only their 3rd loss. So very proud of Auburn to go out there and get that win.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if I've ever seen Auburn play that kind of basketball, which gives me a chance to bring up my point again. How in the world can we keep saying it's talent instead of coaching? Because until we got Bruce Pearl at Auburn as a basketball coach, people pretty much had grown to believe, as a tradition at Auburn, that we could not be competitive as a basketball team. So I'm just saying, Auburn is a great school. We can compete for championships at any level, and I'm so proud of the basketball team, and I'm looking forward to the next game tomorrow, and I think it would be great. I mean, just think about what it would do for Auburn's RPI if we could beat the team tomorrow, end up playing Oklahoma, win this tournament in Hawaii, and then come back home. What would that do for Auburn?
And be a ton of confidence for this young team. And if they were able to pull that off going into, the conference schedule starting in January, you couldn't ask for a better combination.
Well, I heard somebody say today that I have a pretty good bit of trust in that said Daniel Purifoy could be the best freshman in the SEC regardless of Kentucky. What do you think about that comment?
If you read into what Bruce Pearl said about him, he hasn't thrown those type of work, but he said he could be the most talented player on the team, and he thinks he's a pro prospect. And I haven't heard Bruce Pearl say that about many of the players since he's been here at Auburn. But
I don't think he said it about any. I can't remember him saying it about any.
So if he could be the most talented player on this squad, and there's some talented players on this Auburn squad right now, it's not the bear is. I mean the cupboard's not bare right now on this Auburn basketball team.
I got to say, for all that Canty did today, the assassin on that basketball team is T.J. Dunnins. That guy is tremendous, and I think we got a good chance of going to the NCAA this year. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I mean, it won't be the first time I'll be wrong, but hallelujah and War Eagle.
War Eagle to you, Shadow.
Absolutely. Great call.
I can't say any better. Shadow's positive about a program and willing to say it out there.
Well,
and I agree with him 100%.
A lot of reason to be positive about Auburn basketball. I mean, you go in and you get a great coach. And we all have talked about coaching at every level, whether it be pro, college, high school, whatever. I mean, good coaches, time in and time out put off a good program or good product on the field or on the court or on the diamond, whatever. I mean, look what Auburn did in softball. I mean, had Auburn softball ever been much? Had they ever been really much? I mean, spurts here and there maybe. But, I mean, they went from average to winning the conference and beating some teams that were perennial powers in the nation, Alabama, Tennessee, those types in Florida, those types of programs, and end up going to the College World Series. So Clint Myers did a tremendous job. Bruce Pearl has done a tremendous job in his short amount of time here. The future is bright there. Want Gus Malzahn to get it turned around on football, Randy. I mean, nobody's pulling harder for him. I don't want a coaching change. I don't want to go through that again. I think, Gus Malzahn had some good things going. He had a hiccup this year. We finished 6-6. Would love to get – I know this sounds stupid, but it is what it is. Love to get a win in this Birmingham Bowl, and the reason I say what I'm about to say, it would be a big win because you go 7-6, you take some momentum into the spring. I mean, 7-6, whether you like it or not, it's a lot better than 6-7 when you look at it on paper. And I know it's just one number, but I'd rather that 7 be on the left than be on the right. So
888-9-TIGER-9 334-887-3401. Love to hear from you. Up against another break here, Brad. And when we come back, we'll continue to take your phone calls out there, and we'll move in and talk a little bit more about Brett's thoughts with the bowl games. Do you like the bowl games to maybe be pushed out to 8 to 16 of these teams, or do you like where we currently sit with the the 2 semifinal games leading into a championship? More Sports Call right after this.
have you done? Another year over, and you won't just begun.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. Brett Pritchard, Randy Lee here with you for a little bit less than 30 minutes here today. Give us a call, 1-888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. In the world of live events, okay, and this one, you can say it's a sport. I gamble on it. You can bet on this, by the way, but in the world of live events, things happen, and when things happen, there's no video to go back and erase and all that. And I've never seen a blunder. Steve Harvey is what he did this past weekend in the Miss Universe pageant. I don't know what he was looking at on that card, but I felt terrible for him, dude. I mean, I really felt horrible. And I was watching the Sunday night football game, and I was upstairs and go home, and my wife's downstairs watching. And she said, "They're about to crown Miss Universe." I said, I'll watch the last three right here. And USA was in it, by the way, and finished second runner-up. And so it was down to the last two, Miss Philippines and Miss Columbia. And Steve Harvey emphatically goes, Miss Universe 2015 is Miss Columbia. And I mean, and of course, everybody felt like, you're down to the final two. That was right. She makes the walk. And 4 or 5 minutes goes on. And then he walks back out there. And he's a comedian. And he always joking around stuff. He said, "Folks, I'm sorry." And it was the most odd thing is they were about to cut away, and he piped his mic back up, and he said, I've made a terrible mistake. And I said, am I witnessing this? What is going on right here? I did. Look, it just shows you even the best and the most professional, and you can make a mistake. And, boy, that was a bad one.
It was one. I didn't watch, of course. Yeah. I know you're shocked, but I wasn't watching live.
Yeah.
When the Miss Universe.
That's not what you annually tune into.
But I love Steve Harvey, and
golly, man.
I feel for him, but he'll come out of it, and it'll be a punchline for the rest of his career, and he'll run with it.
Oh yeah, he will.
I hate it for the girls, but all of them seem like they took it in stride and clearly understand.
Until Miss Columbia said she's going to sue him for $5 million.
Well,
isn't that crazy? Did it really? Look, I know that was embarrassing, and that's a slap, and that's never happened in the world of a pageant, I don't guess, now that somebody has to come out there and take the crown off your head and give it to the other girl that you were in the running for with it. I had to bring that up. That was talked about on some other programs today. I figured we'd bring that one up. Can you think of another embarrassing moment in live television history? I was trying to think about that, something that just made you feel like, good Lord, I just felt bad. I can't really think of one. Boy, that one's definitely up there at the top for sure. But 1-888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. Talking about some of these bowl games. If you look at last night, the potential Auburn defensive coordinator Tom Allen, the South Florida Bulls go down to Western Kentucky 45-35. Randy, South Florida was up 14-0 that game. Looked good. And that defense gave up point after point in the second half. So, and you just heard Brian Matthews in the first hour say that he's really surprised Tom Allen hadn't been named yet. So, here it comes. And you can't judge it off one game. And I can be honest with you, I hadn't watched South Florida that much this year, but they were much improved. And you look at their record and what they did the year before and all this kind of stuff. So, again, we'll just see it. Man, 45 points. That's what they gave up to Western Kentucky.
I think you have to know that it's coming, and it's a tough hire for Auburn this year. You're in a year going up next year, which is kind of a make-or-break year for Gus Malzahn, and the Auburn faithful is still behind him, I believe.
There's no doubt.
If 100% is not behind him, 95 is, and we didn't have that same with Chiswick throughout. So Terry Bowden as well. There was already people trying to jump off that bus, and I think all of us would really love to see Coach Malzahn, and all it would take this upcoming year is just to have a good one, and I think people would be full effect back. But you put yourself in the shoes of the defensive coordinators that are out there being talked about having to leave a program. Probably a huge pay increase, but I can't imagine once we're to this point, though, Brett, that whoever we hire is going to get some kind of crazy contract. A crazy contract like a huge buyout.
No, I don't. I wouldn't think
multi-years worth of pay.
No, I don't.
If everything because you're down to guys that they're not taking a lateral move.
Oh,
here.
Of course not.
They're taking a huge jump if they end up getting.
Well, you don't have to give them that kind of money.
You'd hope not. We've seen us do it before.
we can dish out a check or two around these parts. 1-888-9-TIGER-9 334-887-3401. Outside of the playoffs, we talked about this on Saturday Sports Countdown. Thought it was a great discussion, and had several people call in and talk about it. What game intrigues you outside of the national championship game? Some of these matchups here on the bowls, and if you look at obviously Clemson, Oklahoma, Alabama, Michigan State in the playoffs there. What other games intrigue you as far as matchups coming down the stretch?
I'll tell you one that's intriguing just because it's a dumpster fire is Texas A&M and Louisville, and just to see what A&M's going to do, Brett.
Good point.
Sumlin, it's uglier than it is at Auburn.
It really is
right now, and that's saying a mouthful. But with Sumlin and what he's losing 2 5-star quarterbacks here in back-to-back, and losing a Kyle Allen who I thought really took leaps forward at the first part of the year. Looked like it to me, Brett, and it looked like skill set out there that he had to throw to.
Well, remember what he did to Auburn last year.
Moving into the upcoming years, I thought they were scaring people. But this is a Texas A&M team that really, again, does look like a dumpster fire. So that's one that I'm looking forward to. Just going down the list right here. Is there one that jumps out to you?
I do. One that I'm really interested in watching is the Russell Athletic Bowl. That's North Carolina and Baylor. I mean, Baylor, high-powered offense, and I know they've had their lumps this year, but that was a team that was expected to do big things, maybe a playoff contender. And North Carolina, my goodness, I mean, once they get out of the state of South Carolina, they're pretty good. They lost the opener to South Carolina, lost to Clemson in the ACC championship game, but man, you want to talk about Fedora and Chizik doing a great job with that team. I'm interested to see how that matchup goes.
Tax Slayer Bowl, Penn State taking on Georgia, noon, Jacksonville, Florida, Everbank Field. That's one that I look forward to because that one's got a history. If you think back, the one national title that Georgia pulls in 1980, they're taking on a Penn State team led by Todd Blackledge, by the way, at quarterback, and they have a very good team, and Herschel Walker – with a separated shoulder, I believe, ends up going for about 160 yards and runs that Georgia team to a national title in his freshman year. They had some opportunities following that up, but they never were able to fulfill those national title hopes. So that's the one that they had during the Herschel's tenure. So they'll meet back up. And Franklin has got this team, if he can move it towards the type of team that I think he wants. I don't think he wants the quarterback sitting back there in the pocket that's the NFL caliber type guy. I mean, of course, he'd take Tom Brady, but, they ain't had Tom Brady there. I think that they want to get to what he was able to do at Vandy, which have a mobile quarterback back there, and they'll move into that direction next year. And watch out for Penn State in the years to come.
Oh, I agree with you. And then getting back in that SEC matchup, he's an SEC-minded coach. Like you said, had Vanderbilt the best years they've ever had there. Another game stands out to me, just kind of like what you were talking about with just a minute ago, kind of see what's going to happen with Texas A&M. What about LSU and Texas Tech in the Texas Bowl out in Houston, Texas?
I think LSU is going to run them dead off the field, running the football. I could be wrong because I thought that after Leonard Fournette did what he did to Auburn.
Possibly so, yeah.
That he may break all the rushing records. He may be running at Barry Sanders from what we saw at Auburn, but he didn't have that once he ran up against some very good defenses later in the season. Texas Tech, they can't stop anybody, Brett, and I don't believe they'll be able to man up and stop LSU.
Probably won't. That's probably what will end up coming down the stretch. They'll be able to just turn around, hand that ball off the Fournette, and just pound it down the throat. Another game, Washington State and Miami in the Sun Bowl. I mean, Miami, Mark Richt going down, taking over that program. Washington State, we know about their program and what kind of a crazy guy he is. I mean, that could be an interesting matchup. I'm trying to make something interesting out of some of these bowl games and give you a reason to watch.
Well, Mark Richt is interesting period down in Miami to me. I think it's a great hire for Miami. They needed a profile guy to come down that's got some personality. And Mark Richt, he can be straight-laced, but when he needs to be, I think he can be a player's type of guy and let them feel loose. And it never really worked out for a national title at Georgia, but they were 9.5, 10-win per year team. If he can ever get Miami back to that level with the amount of talent that he can bring in, if he can shore up the recruiting down there, I think he can get them back to where they can compete for conference titles and national championships at some point. And I'll be cheering for Mark Richt to do that because I think college football is better when Miami's good.
Oh, yeah, and it's been a while, and they've allowed their facilities to go downhill, and
he'll go fighting for that.
And of course he will. But I mean, that's just, I think that's, we've heard it several times. Miami, everybody left the late '80s, early '90s, and moved on, and Miami stayed there. I know they had some flashes in early 2000, but look, but facility wise, they have not. So it's finally caught up to them. Is what I'm saying. Despite themselves, they had some successful years on into it, but they've got a lot of work to do down there. But who knows what Mike Leach will pull out of the bag there against them. But this another game, one more game outside of the playoffs, and that I think is interesting. Two teams, Oregon that's been at the top for a while, and TCU, who narrowly missed the playoffs last year, was a favored team to be in the playoffs, didn't make it this year. I think that could be an interesting matchup out in San Antonio in the Alamo Bowl.
Yeah, I agree. And again, you brought up the point, and we'll close out the program in the next segment. How many teams would you like to see in this playoff? Me personally, I kind of like it at the 4. Brett wouldn't mind seeing it go to 8, maybe to 16.
I didn't say 16, but maybe
8's all you
8.
want.
8 is about it. And I mean that would allow. And I know when you get to 8, somebody say, well, number 9 or 10 could have got in, all that. But I mean, really, at that 4 level, I mean, you're seeing some teams right there that were literally Iowa and Ohio State, one play from being in that game, and it could have been them two versus another team out there. And then you got your conference champions. I mean, you got 5 major conferences right now, and you got 4 spots. And I think it may be a situation to where, on the outside looking in, they haven't allowed 2 teams from the same conference to get in. And I think sometimes that's going to happen down the road. And what the heck? What would it hurt? I mean, you're seeing right now in FCS. I mean, Jacksonville State was number 1. And they're making mincemeat out of people. I mean, it ain't hurt them at all to go through a playoff system. And FCS is fun to watch, man. There's a lot of people that are for that and in favor. The NFL does it. I mean, we've had this discussion numerous times. I mean, I don't know. It's a start. I just think that I'm glad that we're at 4 teams, but I don't think that's where we'll end up ending.
888-9-TIGER-9, 334-887-3401. One more segment here on Sports Call this afternoon. Another reminder out there, we'll have Sports Blitz live tonight, Charter Channel 80 or Charter Channel 3 here in the Lake Martin region, so make sure to tune into that. More Sports Call right after this.
A mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel. You're as cuddly as a cactus.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call final segment here. Brett Pritchard, Randy Lee, as will be the last time we're on there before Christmas. So appreciate all the festive Christmas bumpers back there, Chase, as we head into the Christmas season. I want to wish everybody out there a Merry Christmas, and as we'll be back on there the following week as we get ready for New Year's, but and get ready for that Auburn game in Birmingham against Memphis. Randy, this is a good Memphis team. I know we hadn't talked about it a lot, but they're 9-3, and they got a great quarterback. And Brian Matthews said it. I mean, it is a concern for Auburn. Dejected going into Birmingham, having to settle and play, and just lucky to get into a bowl the way they played this year. Memphis already knocked off an SEC team in Ole Miss, 9-3. Gonna have their hands full.
Well, look, last year I would have said as we went into the Georgia game that I would have never believed that a Gus Malzahn coach team would play down. And we went into that game, and would you not have? I always thought that we'd be prepared and play hard, and not that we didn't play hard, just everything that could go wrong did.
It did.
And since then, we've seen numerous games that way, Brett. And so I don't know what we're going to get. I have no earthly idea what we'll get at Birmingham next week, and nor am I sitting around on pins and needles worrying about it.
I don't think anybody is. That's the thing.
I just want to see this thing get better. I want to see some signs of life as we head into next year, because there's not much going through the end of this year.
Could this thing get out of hand Wednesday?
No, Memphis is not that good. They've lost 3 games in a row and not against very good teams. You can pull up their 3 consecutive losses or against teams that.
But I'm saying is, could you envision a situation? That's what you don't want to have.
No.
I mean, you lose. If you lose a game, I mean, you look over there, 9-win team, got a great quarterback. That could very well happen. I mean, this Auburn team's not a very good football team, complete. I mean, they've got some parts to them, but overall, they've struggled to score points all year long. Offense hasn't been there. Defense has been porous.
They played hard, though.
I'm not taking anything away from that. I'm not taking anything away, and this is not 2012 by no stretch of the imagination.
That's the reason when you ask it to get out of hand, though.
Okay.
I think that this team's got enough to stay in ball games. They did all year long.
They have, except for one.
And they played hard all year long. It's not. I mean, again, I'm not off the Gus bus. I mean,
I'm not going there.
I just can't wait to see the changes that we make heading into next year, Brett. Is it going to be a running quarterback? Is it going to be more of a mobile type? That's what it looks like the recruiting is based towards right now. So who ends up with a reign there? That's just on the quarterback. And then do we get some kind of semblance of an identity on the offensive side of the ball? And that's the one thing that I think you said in the early part of this program that I completely agree with. I want to see us get back to playing Auburn football offensively. I don't care if we give up 40. I mean,
if you can score 45, you'll be fine. I mean, you just got to be able to score. I mean, you just felt helpless this year because it didn't matter about the defense. You started concentrating on the offense. You're like, man, we can't score more than 20, 25 points a game, and we're just not going to be able to win.
We'll close out the program today. A huge victory for Auburn's basketball team, 83-78, as they are in Hawaii playing in a tournament there. And Canny puts on a show again. He gets 27. Dunans gets 20. He kind of was the X factor today, and Canny just needs somebody outside of Simeon Bowers who gets really mop-up points. You can look down, he'll go for 19 and 13 from time, and you need that type of player. But somebody from a 2 or 3 position that can get 20 like we saw Dunans do today makes the difference with this team, because this is a talented team, and Canny's an all-SEC player, no question.
I totally agree. I've got to end on one note here. You and I talking about, we talked a lot about the bowls schedule here in the second hour. Tickets to the Peach Bowl. Not the hottest item in the world, by the way. $15 if you want to go over there and watch Florida State and Houston. And
you can buy it for $1 outside of the state.
There's no doubt. And so what does that say? That it tells me the Peach Bowl is now in the rotation, along with the Cotton Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Orange Bowl, and the Fiesta Bowl. They're in that rotation now. They're building that new stadium right there by the Georgia Dome. The Falcons going to play in. It's going to be world class. But this year, they suffer because they don't have that SEC tie-in anymore. I mean, you take that SEC, they long for the days this year to have that SEC tie-in team that brings a huge crowd, because Florida State, not a big fan base. I mean, you went out to Rose Bowl.
Probably 75% off.
Exactly. And Houston, what fan base? I mean, they don't really have a lot of history. So what that equals and you add those two together in a game that don't really matter, you get $15 tickets. And so I remember a Sugar Bowl between West Virginia and Michigan a few years ago. $5 on the street down there outside the Superdome. So, I mean, you can get you a good college football game going in there and float on in. But that just tells you that there are some drawbacks. These communities, they do want the bowl games, and I know the Peach Bowl is tied in there, but there's some stinkers, man. There are some real stinkers out there. But, again, we will be on the air next week again after Christmas. Again, we want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Randy. We want to thank everybody that tunes us in and listens to us online and on the air every week. And we just couldn't do it without them.
Yeah, I want to thank Tiger Communications and all that they do back there in the Auburn studio, and we're just thrilled to be part of it, and it continues to grow. And find us on our social media outlets out there. It's a great way to stay in contact with us, Sportscall AU. And, again, we can't thank Brian Matthews and Jason Caldwell enough from our end for being on with us on Tuesday and Thursday. Brett, you got programming coming up tonight. Justin Mosley will be with you on Sports Blitz from 6 to 7. We'll actually have a program here locally, but Sports Blitz live from 7 to 9, statewide, Charter Channel 80.
Yeah, it's going to do it for Sports Call Tuesday. Again, Merry Christmas out there to everybody. We've enjoyed it. We hope you have. See you next time.